everyone, welcome to the video. This video we're going to go ahead and make 3 different types of rocks. This should help you when it comes to making all different types of rocks for your environments or whatever it is. It's all going to be the same techniques, especially if you're making bigger ones. It's just you're going to have, you want to have more areas of rest on the bigger ones and so on, and you may want that for smaller ones as well. So we'll have a look at all that stuff. And what we're going to do right now is I'm just going to talk through this part of the video. I might talk and give my input on other parts of the video. The rest is going to feel kind of like a time lapse, but I feel like you can learn visually that way, just to see the techniques and things that I use. I'll try and make mention of what brushes I use. I am going to be using Zbrush to do the sculpting, so all these rocks are going to be made mostly in Zbrush, and we're going to make them out of from a sphere. We're going to make these 3 different shapes. So let's talk about them real quick, and then we'll jump right in. So the first shape we kind of want to make is usually those, and I could have made it a little bit more taller. It's almost like a pillar type of rock is what I like to call it. And these can sometimes be cool and useful in certain environments, mountainous environments. You may want to do a rock like that. It might have a flat bottom, and then this part can probably extend upward more and be much more taller than what I have here. It's just an example. Then we have flat type of rocks, something in a desert, or even if you're just making some type of rock that's just going to sit there in the ground. We can make a flat rock. Sometimes you can add a little curve to the top. It'll still look flat but have a bit of a curvature to it. So this is going to be the second type of rock, and then the third one is going to be just an all rounded rock. This means that we can take this and rotate it around and use it, or reuse it rather, in various different ways. So now that we have the 3 different types of rocks that we're going to be making, let's go ahead and jump into ZBrush and start making them. Now again, it's going to be a time lapse, so just learn from what you're seeing. I'm going to try not to speed up the video too much, so that way you can kind of see what I'm doing. I will make some notes on, what I'm going to be using within that specific section, so just keep that in mind. I might do a talk over, I don't know yet. So anyways, let's get to that part. Alright, so I just want to take a quick moment to just stop and talk about this first rock. And this is the pillar shape rock. I wanted to just show some things. Now, when I do rocks, I don't like to use cracks. And the reason why is because let's say you want to reuse the rock or repeat it. What happens is the viewer is going to notice those cracks and things. So depending on the rock, some rocks you don't want to do that, or you don't want to have too much of it. I just did it here as a little demonstration of what you can do, but I think it would have been fine just without it. We could even just cut in some more areas. So I just want to talk about the brushes that I use. And again, you can expand upon this rock or stone. If you want to, you can duplicate the subtool and then, make sure you have one extra copy of this one, since this can be its own rock or stone. Then if you duplicate the other two, you can combine them together and use Dynamesh, and that'll make them one mesh. You can go to the merge option, merge down, and that'll merge them together. And then you can have your own stone, and you'll have like two of the same shape. That's how you can make some of these cliff pieces and things like that if you want to go that route. But let's talk about the brushes that I use. So obviously Trim Dynamic is the main brush that I started with just to cut away the shapes of the rock. It's going to make it easier and give you less of a hurdle. And there is a way you can make this brush kind of in Blender. If you look up some tutorials, I forgot which one it is, but if you are using Blender, you can pretty much replicate that brush and it'll help you out. And then what I ended up using later is Orb Flatten Edge. The orb brushes are a pack that if you don't have it already, they also have it for Blender as well. I highly recommend getting it, whether you're using Zbrush or Blender, because it's going to help you out a lot. Orb Flatten Edge is really good. As you saw, it made it so easy to cut in and make these shapes and little bevels and things, but not too like precise or pristine. Like it's not a super sharp edge. So that's always good. As you saw, I kind of cut away at those edges because I don't want it to be super sharp. And later, what did help with that is clay polish. And clay polish is under the geometry section here for ZBrush. You got clay polish. You can mess around with the settings. I just leave them where they're at. And as you can see, it kind of gives it a little bit of a softer look and makes some of the details pop a little more. So that's something you want to do though at the very end. So you want to finalize your sculpt first and then do that at the very end. I use orb cracks to make one of the cracks, and then I just use some other brushes that I had. Some cracks brushes that you can find on ArtStation under the marketplace. I highly recommend going there for all of your sculpting brushes. You can maybe find Blender brushes there too. And then I just finished off adding some details with the orb rock detail. So the orb pack is very good, and I highly recommend getting it. It'll help you make rocks a lot more easier. Now, some people might like the old-fashioned way and do things with just some of the other brushes like clay buildup or whatever, and that's fine, but whatever way you can save time is going to be helpful. So I just wanted to make that little pause, that little note on this rock, and then we'll go ahead and continue with the others. Now, one last thing is I use the clip curve brush. If you click on here, you can find it right here. Everything should be in alphabetical order. You can cut into the rocks, and you can even use that to cut in different shapes and cut into the rock to make it more interesting if you wanted to. But I just used it to carve the bottom. As you can see, it's nice and flat, and that's going to help us with some of the next rock, and the other one's going to be more rounded, so we'll just leave it at that. But anyways, let's move on to the second rock, which is going to be the flat sort of rock, and then we'll move on to the final one. So decided to stop here again, and I think I'm not gonna do the third rock as you would expect. What I'm gonna do is, in order to make the third rock, I'm just gonna take what we have and then modify it. I think that'll be a cool way, because that way I can show you how you can make new and different rocks with just pre-existing ones, right? Ones that we already use. So we're going to go ahead and do that instead for the third one. But let me talk about this one because I used a few different brushes here. So when it comes to making flat type of rocks or anything flat, you're going to want to play around with a bunch of things. The first thing that you kind of want to play around with is flatten here and H polish. They kind of do the same thing. If you play around with them, you'll kind of see what they do. And trim dynamic is again the main thing to go to just cut out the shapes, and eventually we're using orb flatten to refine them and so on. Later I add a bit of orb rock detail to just make the rocks have a little bit more detail on there. And we could do a clay polish. That's what I forgot to do at the end. So, you know, if we wanted to, we can just go to geometry, clay polish, and there we go. We can probably do it one more time. We don't want to do it too much or else the model ends up too dark, but it's going to soften everything and just make certain details pop. So there's a lot of back and forth. I wanted to use some other brushes, but I don't want to there's a lot of good brushes out there. That's all I can say. And again, ArtStation Marketplace is a good place to check. But yeah, I mean, you might notice that the techniques are pretty much the same between all rocks. It's just how you approach them. In this case, we use the clip curve to cut the top and the bottom. So that means you know, it'll easily make that flat shape for us. And then what I did is I played around with the rock detail noise to make it a bit more of an intensity, like just more higher intensity, so it can pull the geometry up. And then I try to flatten it with orb flatten edge, which was kind of working, but I had to do some stuff to make it less. And even this might be a little too much, but it's good to have some uneven surface even on a flat type of rock. It depends on what you're going for. I wanted to do that. And then at the very end, I just used Move Elastic to change the rock shape to make it a little bit more round. As you can see, it looks a lot more nicer, like a little stone that you can just place around and so on. Again, not a big fan of cracks, but I just did it again as just a demonstration. So anyways, that's just about this rock. We'll move on to the final rock, and for that one, I'm just going to go ahead and use the first rock, and we can make that fully rounded rock shape. And then maybe we'll do some adjustments to it. So let's get to that. for the final rock, we just basically took the first rock and we combined it together with the other one. Now, you can just do it from scratch if you want to, but this is just one way you can make a whole new rock. Now, I probably would have done it, or it would have been better without a lot of the other details, but it should be fine. Again, this is just a demonstration of how you can make new rocks, and basically we just made a new rock. If we wanted to, we can cut it up some more and make it look a lot more different, but it is obviously going to be different from the rest of the ones. But anyways, I just want to say thank you all for watching. I hope this video was helpful. I know it's a little bit of a time lapse, but you can kind of see the process, see how I do things, and then you can sort of replicate it with the same brushes, the same techniques. It's all the same. Rocks are rocks. It's just you approach them in a certain way, but same brushes are going to be used throughout whatever programs you're using. So just want to say thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, maybe even leaving a like and a comment on the video. It just helps me to stay motivated and know that, you know, there's someone out there that actually enjoys watching the videos and finds them helpful. And obviously you can leave your suggestions in the comments below as well. I'm always looking for improvement. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll go ahead and see you in the next video.